Welcome back to the video series for OST Season 14 and Online Heroscape League. As a reminder, this event is a Casualties of War format, which means that each round you have to drop some number of figures and points from your army. So we started out at 600 points and 20 figures, and then each round those limits go down by 100 points and 2 figures. For the playoffs, they'll go back up by the same increments one round at a time. So this week we are at 400 points and 16 figures. And I am playing Mega Silver this week. This is the highest of profiles O2 versus O2 game. So yeah, lots of things at stake for this one. We haven't had the matchups that we were looking for with our army thus far, as we've hit 2 high defense melee squads with Phantom Knights, which is not ideal. But hopefully we can rebound this week. This week's game is on Rocky Top, and my army is Microcore and Phantom Knights, and they had Concan, but he fell in a previous round. And Mega Silver has the Gallery with Krakenlings. What you're seeing on the screen now is the armies that we both used last round, so we'll have to drop these armies by another 100 points and 2 figures each. For my army, I'm going to end up dropping 2 Microcore and 1 Phantom Knight to end up with 4 Microcore and 9 Phantom Knights. That was really the only composition that my army can drop itself down to comfortably at 400 points, as I really need 4 Microcore to get full value out of them in the opening, and we want to have as many Phantom Knights as possible, as that's going to end up being the core of our army in the mid to late game. Last round, Mega Silver dropped a single Krakenling and a single Gallery, and I would expect to see that again. The army needs to drop 2 figures, and the Gallery are really good, and they want to stay as spammed as possible. So I would expect to see the same thing, where we'll then be facing 14 Gallery with 2 Krakenlings. So we are going to be outnumbered in this one. I'm going to have 13 figures between the 4 Micros and the 9 PKs, and Mega Silver is going to have 14 Gallery and 2 Krakenlings for 16 total figures. In terms of sub-matchups that we like in this, Micros are going to be our best chance to kill the Krakenlings if Mega Silver allows us to get those shots in the early game, as that's our best way to try to get 4v5s into them. Those shots are good even if we only do 1 to 2 wounds, because it drastically limits the offensive output of that Krakenling later in the game. Gallery are interesting because normally you don't want to be taking heighted attacks into them because they get +2 defense, but Micros happen to get +2 attack dice when on height. So it changes the math back in favor of the attacker, where you still do want height, where you're getting 4v4s. So ideally, we'd like to get a few shots in at Krakenlings if they get exposed in the early game, and then other than that, just be shooting at Gallery 4v4s. Phantom Knights are pretty good into Gallery if we can make the attacks all happen on even ground, as then we're rolling 3v2s, and the Gallery are rolling 3v4s back into us, although they do have 1 more attack per turn, so that swings the math back a little bit more. In terms of openings in this game, my goal as always is to get as many Microcores to height as fast as possible. So we're going to be looking at the core heighted spots as targets to reach by the end of our second move. For example, this spot is our best spot. There's 4 different 4 height spots that Micros can reach by the end of their second move. We have this spot, we have this spot up here, and then these 2 spots down here at the bottom. So we'll have to decide which of those to go for, as we're not going to be able to position Micros to be able to go for all of them. Unfortunately, my army isn't going to have very good glyph control into the Gallery specifically, as it's going to be tough to deny those glyphs as Gallery get their free movements before the second round. So Gallery are probably going to have Dagmar going into round 2. It's unfortunate, but it's kind of just a reality of facing this army. The problem with both of those middle spots is I'm not going to be able to totally block off height from the Gallery no matter what I do before their second order marker, which is going to make it a little bit tough. We'll see which of those height spots I end up going for. I honestly haven't made up my mind yet. Let's take a look at the math of how the Gallery and Phantom Knights trade into each other. So I have 2 damage calculators pulled up already that we can take a look at. This first one here is for the Phantom Knights attacking into the Gallery. So when I'm rolling 3v2s, assuming we're on even ground, there is a 62% chance that I get a kill on each attack. You can read this off of this chart by looking for the chances that I get at least 1 wound, because 1 wound or more all kill a Gallery. Similarly, when we look at the Gallery's attack, we can see that they're going to have a 40% chance to kill a Phantom Knight every time they take that attack. But the Gelry are going to be taking more attacks per turn than the Phantom Knights are. So you're looking at 4 attacks with a 40% chance to kill, which ends up being roughly 1.6 kills per turn. Going back to the Phantom Knight attack calculation, the Phantom Knights are going to have 3 attacks of approximately 62% chance to kill a Gelry, which ends up being 1.86 kills per turn, again, on average. What that shows us, though, is that Phantom Knights are going to trade slightly positively into Gelry, but it's quite close. So we really need to have roughly even numbers between the Phantom Knights and Gelry by the time that battle happens, and that's assuming that the Krakenlings aren't going to be a factor in the endgame, which they probably will. So to have a roughly even matchup between the Phantom Knights and the Gelry, we're going to need the Microcore to either take out 2 Krakenlings and 5 Gelry, which is a lot, or more than 5 Gelry, to where there should be some Phantom Knights left over to deal with the Krakenlings after they trade with the Gelry. Now, those are all pretty static numbers, and they don't account for in-game dynamics, like Gelry having better access to Dagmar than I will. But the short version of those numbers is I need the Micros to have a strong opening to have much of a chance in this one. I'll definitely be putting all 3 order markers in round 1 on Microcore, like I usually do, and hopefully they have that strong opening. One benefit I do have with Phantom Knights is that they're a lot more mobile than most of the melee units that end up facing Gelry, so it should be easier to try to get even ground attacks on them more often than if I had a less mobile force for that second wave. Let's hop on into the game and see how it goes. As previously discussed, I drop 2 Micros and 1 PK, and as expected, Mega Silver drops 1 Gelry and 1 Krakenling. Mega wins the dice off and elects to place first, taking the side with the large ruin. I end up placing half my Micros above and below the river, where any of them could reach this level 4 spot in 2 moves. The bottom 2 ones can reach here in 2 moves, and the top one can reach here in 2 moves. So I'm trying to have flexibility with which height I can rush for. Gelry do their first pre-turn movement, and then I win the opening initiative. I'm always putting a Micro here for the safe even ground shot, but I have 2 options for the others. I could get 2 heighted shots on these Gelry, but then those Micros will get caught, or I can take 1 more even ground shot and forego the final attack, and then not give Gelry an attack on their order marker 1. I elect to go that route, and I get 1 kill. Gelry then push up the middle. Back to me, and I have 2 very different options here. I can take height and get 3 4v4s, but then most, if not all, of those Micros will get caught. Or I can back up and take 3 2v3s, and again deny Gelry attacks. This decision point feels closer than the last one, but the benefit of saving Micros for the late game ends up swaying me to back up and take the worst attacks, but I end up missing all 3 of them. 4 more Gelry advance up to the center of the map. I was hoping the forward 4 would get aggressive and string themselves out more, but they're slow rolling with more discipline than that. My 3 is Micros, and now I'm committed to this turtle plan, so I ensure Micros can't get caught here, though that only gives me 2 attacks, and I take them, getting 1 kill. You'll notice 2 Micros took low ground water, which, like Gelry, will give them +2 defense for when the fish dudes come in. There's some counter-normal incentives going on for both of our armies here. Mega Silver then advances all of the back Gelry save 1, who is presumably the one threatening to take Dagmar. Now, I think this next decision for both of us is probably the most interesting part of the game. At face value, Mega Silver can just take Dagmar freely here. However, if I present him with 3 order markers on PKs and 1 on Micros, I actually think he should decline to take Dagmar and then hope to lose the round 2 initiative, and then play for the switch from round 2 into round 3, because I don't currently have any places where PKs can attack Gelry on even ground, where the Gelry then wouldn't be able to get height on those PKs on the following turn. So because of that, I actually end up putting my order marker 1 on Micros, which is better if I win initiative, but worse if I lose initiative. because I actually thought Mega should decline to take Dagmar here. However, he ends up taking Dagmar anyways, and there goes my shot at some big brain logic working out for me. I honestly think that the equilibrium here, though, is me taking the order marker 1 on micros and Mega still declining to take Dagmar, though, just because of how good the round 2 into round 3 initiative switch would be for him. Anyways, Gelry rush in again, and then I do lose the initiative roll, and Gelry engage my start zone, killing 2 micros and 1 PK. Ow. Well, now this order marker 1 on micros just looks silly. I ship both micros to height to act as blockers of sorts and get the better attacks, and I get 1 kill off of the 2x 4v4s. Gelry then take the coveted low ground water spots that micros previously occupied. That's a rare sentiment in Heroscape. And they kill 2 PKs. My 2 is PKs, and I adjust them to get even ground attacks without giving up height, but only get 1 Gelry. Gelry then killed 2 more PKs and 1 micro. That's 8 kills this round for them, which is pretty damn good. My 3 is PKs, and I go for a Hail Mary of sorts, sending 1 PK to engage the Dagmar fish on even ground, and another to tie up the 2 fish that could reach it on their bonus movement, hoping to kill the glyph guy and then get the initiative switch because they can't retake it without LEAs. I do get the Dagmar fish, but I miss the other 2 attacks. This one here was an especially big miss, as I could have put a PK on that spot to then get even ground without giving up height. I keep all my order markers on PKs, as that 1 micro isn't going to do anything meaningful, and Mega Silver decides he wants Dagmar really badly, and takes an LEA to get it, which misses. Damn. If those 2 LEAs went through, and I then get the switch, I might have actually had a chance here. The remaining Gelry rotate around, and I then lose initiative. Gelry get 2 more PKs here, leaving me with just 2 of them left. Those 2 retreat to even ground in the start zone, and get 1 kill. Gelry then focus fire on the last micro, and do kill it, but miss 2 attacks into the PKs. My remaining PKs whiff their attacks. More Gelry come into the start zone and kill both PKs, ending the game, and I fall to 0-3 in this event. Rough one for me here. It wasn't a good matchup, and then about everything that could go wrong did. The final stats paint a pretty grim picture that just about matches the final board state imbalance. Graciously, .org was kind enough to gift its creator some much-needed rest with the round 4 bye, which prevented me from falling to 0-4 this event. I clearly underestimated how prevalent straight melee would be in this meta, and suffered the consequences of my failed foresight.